Wait, who blew up my intro? Don't you see? It's artsy and too deep for your feeble mind to understand. Yeah, we're starting this video off on a high note, aren't we? Regardless, today I'm taking a look at Haibane Renmei, or Haibane Renmei, whatever it's pronounced as. So, how about we stop stalling and just get into why that is? The show revolves around Raka, a newly hatched angel who was a human in a previous life, and now spends her new life helping others while trying to figure out her past, as well as helping out the Haibane. Basically a group of similar angels, who are about as deep and interesting as tap water, save for one character that I'll touch on later. As the show goes on, Raka continues to ponder about her past, while also striking a bond with a certain member of the Haibane, and as the pacing shuffles its feet at numerous points, we eventually discover that the world this anime takes place in is not a pretty one to live in, as more and more restrictions / nasty conditions are brought up, such as an angel being sin-bound and their wings turning black as a result of them feeling guilt for their past deeds / sins, or some stuff like that. Oh, and the walls, which are pretty much never elaborated on outside of don't touch them, but they still make a big deal about it despite being vague because, let's be honest, the internet will make their own headcanons about it and fill in the blanks the writers couldn't be bothered to fill in themselves. My headcanon is that the walls contain the true identity of the UA trader. Sorry, got a little salty for a moment. Let's continue. Honestly, the story is fine enough, but it has problems. One of which being, well, the instances where several things that are important, or somewhat important, are left vague and not much elaborated on further in the show. Now, if you recall my video on Clawnauts ending a few years ago, you may recall that I'm not a fan of this form of storytelling where the headcanon / fan theories are used to fill in the blanks left by the writers. And 3 years after that video came out, I stand by that opinion to an extent, because I think it's the writer's job who should be the ones filling in the blanks / vague elements that matter to the story, and not the fans watching it. I get why some people are okay with this or prefer it since it opens up discussion and analysis, but personally I'm not one of them. Hell, I'm not even asking for the plot to be spoon-fed, because as said in previous reviews, just because I'm not a fan of one extreme doesn't mean that I want the other. I personally prefer a balance for something like this, and unfortunately this show doesn't really have that. However, the problem with this point is that it is completely subjective, since it all comes down to taste. Some people prefer elaboration to these concepts, and others prefer it to be vague so they can examine it and discuss it with other like-minded individuals, so really this element comes down to if you prefer your storytelling to be more or less vague when it's told to you. If yes, you may enjoy the story. If no, then I would suggest avoiding it because, well, there's a bunch of vague stuff here that is never elaborated or explained further and will likely leave you with more questions than answers by the end of it. And, well, even the conclusion of the series doesn't feel like a conclusion to me. Rather, it just feels like there's supposed to be more to it, but they were like, screw it, and pulled the plug too early. Speaking of screw it, the character element is the weakest element of the show. With the exception of Raka and Reiki, the character I hinted at earlier, if you were to replace all of the characters with pieces of plywood, I wouldn't be all that upset by it because these characters are incredibly bland. They have little to any personality or chemistry, little to any development. Basically, it made me apathetic towards their existence. It made me wonder when they would piss off so they could cut back to the characters with the most screen time, aka the characters that are interesting / fleshed out, such as Raka and Reiki. Now, as the series goes on, one of these characters, quote-unquote, pass away, or in this show's case, goes on their day of flight, and I couldn't care less, because as established earlier, there wasn't much of a reason for me to care about them in the first place, due to how flat they were as a character. Maybe that was the intent, but if not, then they expected me to care about this character dying, and I'm sorry, but you need to do more to make me as a viewer care about them than just exchange a couple lines of dialogue, have interactions that feel forced in and not made natural, and well, make the character interesting enough for me to care. But yeah, farewell, what's your face? Okay, now I'm over it. So yeah, I think you get the point about the planks of wood. Instead, I'm going to focus on Raka and Reiki. Raka was okay. I liked her chemistry with Reiki as well as their bond. I liked the character arc of her slowly unraveling the truth behind the meaning of her dream in the cocoon that turned her into an angel, as well as her trying to help Reiki reach her day of flight and also saving her life. And when she got sick because she touched the walls of vague storytelling, I actually felt something towards her character because, well, they actually cared enough to make her interesting for the viewer to empathize with. I know, what a fancy concept. Same applies to Reiki. They managed to do a good job making me care about them as a character. I liked the bond with Raka and their scenes together were nice to see. And I also liked her backstory as being a sin-bound and having to cover up her black wings for years as her character arc results in her finally being free of her guilt and going on her day of flight. So yeah, I like these two characters. A pity that the other characters are flat and uninteresting, and yet they are apparently part of the main cast as well from what I've looked up, as well as how often they appeared in the series. You know,
just because you can add a bunch of main characters doesn't mean you should, you know. The first 2 Digimon Adventure series prove that. I guess this is the part where I talk about the animation, but it's only just okay. The movement is fine, same with the backgrounds and the like, but I feel that the art style is a little too lifeless for my taste, even for the tone it's trying to set. It just makes me want to go do something else instead. And considering that it's like this for every episode, that became a problem the more I watched the series. Thankfully, the audio department does have a lot more life poured into it, as I quite enjoyed the intro and ending pieces, as well as the background music for its lyrics and composition working for both the show and on its own as a song, on top of it being memorable to an extent. But voices are, well, just okay in both the English and Japanese releases in terms of how they perform their roles. So I guess with all that said, let's wrap this up. Overall, this show is not my cup of tea. It has good moments to it, and I do understand why some people like it, and more power to you if you did enjoy it, don't get me wrong. But to me, I don't like the characters, save for the 2 mentioned prior. The story was okay at best, and the best element of it is the music. But like I said earlier, a lot of this comes down to personal taste, and if you enjoy, say, this form of storytelling where a lot of the elements are vague for the sake of discussion, you may enjoy that as well as other parts. But if not, I would not recommend this show to you. That being said, I really do appreciate the request, T-Babe, and I'm really sorry if this isn't what you wanted me to say about the show. But it's just not for me. But hey, if you like it, more power to you. I'm not going to judge you for liking it. So with all that said, thank you all for watching, and next time we meet, I'll be continuing the Viewer's Request Marathon with... Well, this would have been more appropriate if I covered this on Halloween, but okay. Tokyo Ghoul requested my musical Malawetta. See you then.
So you're awake. I'm glad.
What happened to me?
I figured you would ask that first. Alright, I'll explain. Greninja brought you here to get operated on, and I removed that scar he gave you with my powers. As for the white streak, that might be because you overtaxed your body in your final moments before falling unconscious. But I can deal with that later if you want.
So my anger caused that. It's fine, sweetie. I don't mind this. It's just a reminder that I shed that ring for a good reason. If anything, I'm just glad you made it to this bunker, okay? However, now that we're here, you have some explaining to do.
Of course, I was planning on doing that regardless. Anyways, as your boss stated, I was born defective. However, my ability didn't activate until I was a teenager. But I didn't know what my power was, and neither did my parents. And after a nasty incident at the clinic when the doctor tried to kill me, my parents stopped bringing me to the clinic, and we moved several times after that to protect me from the one person who could kill me, Agent Seraph. I have been running from that man for over 10 years, and I thought I would never have to deal with him again. Especially once I filed the papers up here, but as we can see, that isn't the case. Something needs to be done about Seraph, and I am tired of losing people that I love. My power is the ability to mimic the properties of whatever I touch, and I can either coat my skin in it, combine with the properties of another absorbed moment before, etc. That's also how I was able to remove the scar, by first copying the properties of a nearby snake and then adding your skin to it, before proceeding to shed that skin over your scar and bam, no scar. Though it does dissipate after using it once. Listen, I am sorry I never told you that before. It was just too dramatic to talk about, and I didn't want to let another person get hurt because of me. David, I nearly lost my parents because of this man, and I nearly lost you tonight. It's not your responsibility to sacrifice yourself for me.
No, sweetie. I do get it. That must have been hard on you after so long. Your parents nearly being killed by this man, being hunted for 10 plus years, having a chance at happiness, but this man is trying to kill you again. All because of a factor that you can't control, and when you did try to get help, they tried to kill you anyways. After all that, I do understand why you did it. No one should be killed for something like that. And that is why we had our laws changed up here all those decades ago. Because it caused more harm than good, and people realize that. Besides, even if you were born with a defect, you still have the abilities to control its immense power, as well as make an impact on this world just as much as the rest of us. We both had our hardships in life, we both want to live a normal life, but we can't do this on our own. If we want it, we have to work for it. And that's why I'm going to help you stop Seraph. Besides, that guy killed my dad, and he needs to pay for all that he's done.
You're right. I may have been born with it, but that doesn't mean I should be killed because of it. I'm just as human as everyone else. We got your boss and Greninja in this bunker. All we need to do is work together, and then we can lure Seraph into a trap.
Sounds good.
By the way, since you saved my life and I saved yours, we're even. but I still want something out of it outside of my earlier request. And I think you know what that is.
You're not subtle, you know that.
Let's be honest. You don't care about subtlety right now, do you?